So today, as usual, we had our weekly Warriors Den live stream. And while this week there wasn't any super specific talks about balance, Yubi did talk about a few other things. As usual with these recap videos, I'll start off talking about what I found most important while putting my 2 cents in and then work my way down. There were a few things that I found interesting, so let's not waste any more time and get right into it. And sorry if my voice sounds a little weird, I'm a little under the weather, so bear with me. So the first thing I want to talk about in this video is regarding attack indicators while fighting off multiple people. As we're all aware of, the attack indicators have been pretty garbage for the past few weeks, making ganks much tougher to deal with, and Yubi finally addressed it. It's at the top of Yubi's priority list. They're fully aware that it's an issue and they're trying to fix it. They don't really know when a fix will be given out to us though, which is sort of a bummer. Recently, I've sort of strayed away from duels because honestly, it's just, they're not that fun to me anymore. So I've been playing a lot of Dominion and Breach. And when playing in 4s, you always end up in a gank eventually. That's just the game. And fighting multiple people is sometimes a nightmare. I get that it's not supposed to be easy to win a 1v whatever, but when the indicators aren't working, it feels like you're at a much larger disadvantage than usual. I think the game is trying to show you what attack will hit you first, but it fails at doing so, and you'll be ready to block an attack and the indicator will just vanish, but the attack will still go through. Or sometimes you'll go for a parry and your parry animation will start, but you don't parry anything. Or if you're surrounded and someone is behind you, the attack indicator will show up on the wrong side. It's really just a mess, especially with the insane amount of crowd control in this game. At least we know that Yubi is working on it. It can't be the easiest thing to fix since there's a lot going into it, and maybe by season 15 we'll have some sort of update addressing it. Next, let's talk about Breach. So it turns out that Breach is just as popular as Dominion in terms of time played, which is good. The more game modes that are actually populated, the better. Yubi is continuing to work on Breach, trying to balance the game mode and maps out a bit so that one team doesn't have the advantage. Personally, I feel that Breach is doing pretty well right now. I like playing as the attacking team just because I feel I have more control over a match if I'm playing solo, but I do appreciate Yubi continuing to try and make the mode as fair as possible for both teams. They also mentioned how they reached out to competitive players and tournament organizers to see what way they can make Breach a more competitive game mode, which is great. I think Breach would be a great game mode for ranked or tournament play just because there's a lot that goes into the match and different strategies and team builds would arise and add some depth to the game. I do hate to sound pessimistic, but I do think that the ship has really sailed on the competitive front of this game, but I'd also love to be proved wrong. This game doesn't have much of a presence on Twitch, which I think is a problem of its own, and having a dedicated, potentially thriving competitive scene would help capture some sort of audience. Of course, this means that the game would need a spectator mode, which I will continue to say. No one wants to watch the game from one person's perspective in a tournament. I'm no pro player or anything, but I think it'd be fun to hold a tournament, but I won't hold one if it's ugly to look at. Breach games can get pretty intense with all that's going on, and you'll miss all the action if you're locked on to one player. And since we're still talking about game modes, they mentioned that at one point in the future, they wish to adjust the steal and XP gain in dead game modes like Skirmish, Elimination, and Tribute. They'd really like to have the steal and XP gain be the same way it is in Breach or Dominion, where it's tied to your time played, which I think would be a good idea, but I doubt they'd really do anything to revive these game modes. I still like the idea of adding challenges to the game that reward XP and steal, and then just tie some of them into the game modes. Say 100 elims in Skirmish grants you 1200 XP, 50 returns in Tribute grants you 1000 XP, win 5 elimination matches in a row for 750 XP. Just little things like that I think would populate these game modes a lot more. There's essentially nothing to play for in For Honor other than ranking up and looking cool nowadays, so I think that a challenge system would be great. They did speak on perks for a little bit. Basically, they think that perks do a great job at what they were made to do. Some are weaker than others, and they plan on balancing that out so everyone isn't just using the same perks. They don't plan on adding any more until they completely balance out the ones we already have, though. I think they said that most people are happy with the perks. At this point, I just don't care for the perks. I wear whatever gear I want, whether I have a perk activated or not. Gear stats were definitely more noticeable, but maybe it is a good thing that they're gone. And again, arcade mode was also mentioned, this time about rewards and bot difficulty. The bots have gotten quite the reputation recently, at least the level 3 ones have, for being too perfect since you can't really mind game a bot. So you just have to turtle up and parry everything they throw at you. They addressed this already, but they plan on making the bots less perfect and more enjoyable to fight against. In terms of rewards, Ubi feels that they are already being pretty generous with the rewards that arcade mode brings. The effect is only guaranteed after the first completion. Anything after that only grants you a chance at getting the effect. And they did this on purpose so that you wouldn't play it just once and then give up on it. I may be biased here because I really think arcade mode was just thrown into the game to try and justify slapping $30 onto the Marching Fire expansion, but I think you should just give us the whole effect set after finishing it just once. If people want to play arcade, they'll play it willingly. So for those of us who just want the reward, don't make us play arcade mode 20 times to get the full set. Next up, we've got the little things. Ubi does plan on messing around with matchmaking again. Matchmaking is pretty hit or miss, especially when it comes to rep levels. So they plan on tweaking around with it so that matchmaking is a little more consistent across the board. They talked about colors again, team colors, effect colors, hair and beard colors, and it sounds like nothing is really going to change. Hair and beard colors are obviously tied to the helmet you choose, and they'd have to redo the helmets and headpieces in order to get custom colors. Effect colors is something they toyed around with, like the plasma effects for each faction, but from their answer, I don't think we'll ever see those. And then outfit colors, they'll continue to work on those. If you see an outfit color that you think should be for attackers, defenders, or neutral, you can report it. Honestly, I think at this point they should just scrap attacker and defender colors and the game would be fine. I don't think I've ever identified an enemy because of his armor colors. If they ever do a no HUD game mode again, then we need them, but for regular old gameplay, we don't need them. I love the neutral colors and wish that I could use them in any game mode I want. Also, a customizable color set would be nice as well. We also won't be seeing any additional material colors added to the game as like a Rep 60 reward, which would have been pretty cool to see. A heartbreaker that came from today's show is that we won't be seeing idle effects on an active slow walk. I've always wanted my effect active on a walk because it will look really cool, but unfortunately we won't be seeing the addition of walking effects anytime soon. Ubi is also continuing to work on map specific bugs like the out of bounds glitches and whatnot. Most of them are already fixed, but if you see any more, feel free to report them to Ubi. As for swapping out emotes like the combat and free roam emotes, they can't do that because it would probably break something. My guess is it has to do with the fact that the free roam emotes are done unlocked and start from idle, while combat emotes are all started differently depending on your stance, which is why we get things like Tiandi's T-pose spam. They also talked about the idea of an emote or execution wheel, so we will be able to choose from more emotes and executions mid-match, but it's not at the top of their priority list. Last thing I want to talk about is the in-match screen. Ubi agrees that currently it takes way too long to get through all your XP, stealing rewards at the end of the game, and are looking into ways to make that faster. I'm usually just smashing A or X, trying to skip that stuff anyways, and I'd love for them to quickly let us skip that. I don't like having to wait 30 seconds just for me to be able to back out of a match. Overall, this Warriors Den told us a lot, but of course, it wasn't going to live up to the last two shows. As I said, I don't think we'll see anything like that again for a while. They teased that the Year of the Harbinger that I talked about a couple days ago was going to be one of the biggest things coming to For Honor, but they can't tell us anything yet. Double XP starts on the 7th of December, and the next patch comes out on the 13th. We know that the Shaman patch is in there, but I think that's the only notable thing, or at least that's what comes to mind. Hopefully it's not a Shigoki nerf. And there's a secret coming on the 20th. It's either going to be a Christmas event or battle outfits. It's honestly a coin toss. It could be Christmas themed battle outfits, who knows. Anyways, that's all I got for this video. It wasn't a, highly packed show, but at least we got something out of it and it wasn't a bunch of memes. I do want to hear you guys' opinion on it though, so talk to me down in the comments about anything we talked about in this video. I have one more For Honor video planned that might go out by the end of this week, and then another one that I may post on Saturday. I've put some time into Red Dead Online and I'm not like in love with it, but it's fun, although it does have some problems that I may talk about. Anyway, as usual, if you like the video, feel free to leave a like and stuff if you're new, and I will talk to you guys in the next video.